Good evening.
You are all welcome to our usual Monday program, The Debate. Thanks for those who are watching on live on Facebook and on YouTube. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be looking at a preoccupying topic which embodies Aspiration 4 of the Agenda 2063, a peaceful and secured Africa. The Agenda 2063, of course, is a flagship initiative of silencing the guns by 2020, and it's at the core or one of the core activities being put in place to ensure Africa is a more peaceful and stable continent. Today with me, I have Kojo Daniels, and we're having Williams will be coming up, and I am your regular host and moderator, Mbolifo Elvis. Today, we will be looking at Silencing the Guns by 2020 as a flagship program adopted by the 24th AU Summit. And we're looking at, we want to see how we can acknowledge the efforts that are being done so far. So the question we'll be asking ourselves is, can we look around and acknowledge the efforts done so far? So with me already in the studio, I have Daniel. Daniel, you're welcome to the debate today, and I hope we are going to have an interesting day. While we're waiting for others to join us, Daniel, can we have a word from you? Daniel, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
You've been off for some time, and I'm happy to have you again on the debate. Can we know who you are, where you're
So,
from?
yeah. Okay. Okay, my name is Daniel Messi. I'm from Ghana, and I'm a bachelor and master degree holder in architecture in Ghana, and I have a passion for development issues, especially in Africa. And since I'm an architect, the built environment, but then I'm also concerned about development in Africa.
Oh, our network is breaking. Hello?
Yeah.
Daniel, I didn't get you properly. Your network got broken along the line.
Okay, so I'll go over that again. I'm Daniel Messi. I'm a bachelor and master degree holder in architecture, and I have a
Okay.
passion for settlement studies and development, especially relating to Africa. And since the social issues in Africa also affect the built environment, I also have a passion for social issues that contribute to the development in Africa. So that's a brief introduction about
Okay.
who I am and what I stand for.
Thank you so much. Will, you're with us? Can we hear from you?
I'm here with you.
Will, we can't get you properly.
Now, thank you. Good evening.
You're welcome to the
Hello.
program. Thanks for being there, of course. And today we're looking at Silencing the Guns by 2020, which is a flagship program adopted by the 24th AU Summit. And so, can we look around and acknowledge the efforts done so far? So, this is what we're basing on, and it's one of the key points that is adopted by the AU to see how by 2020 It means by the end of this 2020, we should be able to have silenced the guns all over Africa, and Africa should be a secured and very peaceful place to live in.
Oh.
So, Will, let me take you as you're coming in very fresh. Do you think Africa is a war zone? Do you think Africa actually is a war zone that we have to be talking about silencing the guns?
Yeah, thank you. And actually, right now, Africa today is a complete war zone. As we all know, in most African countries, there are ethnic wars and ethnic clashes that occur almost every year in, year out. There's a lot of wars, tribal clashes, ethnic wars, and there's a lot of, especially after elections, post-election violences. So in Africa right now, we are at war with one another. That is a huge problem in Africa right now. We are really at war, and I don't understand why we are at war with each other. And Africa is just it's more of one nation. We are one people, one community. Right now, Africa is at huge war with itself. You find people in different countries. Let's say Sudan was recently at war with itself, Sudan and South Sudan. Countries, some parts of Congo, people are at war. Nigeria, people are at war. In Kenya, where I come from, people are at war. And this is accelerated by the presence and the legalization of the use of guns, or the organizations that are allowed to sell guns to some other individuals that use guns at wish. And being that we are at war with each other and we find available weapons at our disposal, it gears up the war more and more. So my opinion is Africa is at war right now, and silencing the guns can help remedy the situation in Africa right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You talk of electoral violence, and that Africans are one people who need unity, of course, and equally the legalization of the use of guns is what is bringing Africa to the state at which we are. Thank you very much for that intro. Daniel, what do you think? Is Africa full of fights and strifes? Are we at war with one another or with ourselves?
I think I would be on the opposite side of what my colleague just submitted. I admit that Africa is not conflict free, but then I wouldn't classify Africa as a war zone. As we know, Africa is made up of about 54 countries, and we know we've had varying degrees of um, past conflicts historically, most of which are civil wars or these ethnic wars. But today, I wouldn't classify Africa as a war zone in totality. Yes, it's true. There are still some conflicts in Sudan, but then compared to what has happened historically, I would say we are in a more peace zone. And I'll even go further to highlight some findings from the Institute of Economics and Peace. They do a study that look at the global peace index. So they look at the most peaceful countries and then the least peaceful countries. But it's good to note that of the top five most least peaceful countries, there's only one African country mentioned, that's South Sudan. So based on these few findings, I would like to put forward that Africa is not conflict free, but we are definitely not a war zone, and we are definitely not living in strife with each other.
Thank you. He submits that Africa is not actually a war zone, given that just one African country is amongst the war countries, as he puts it. And so I want to queue up directly with you, who is so optimistic that even as we are talking about silencing the guns by 2020, Africa isn't yet at a very bad position. And if I go with you, I think you're sure that if something is done, no gun shots will be heard again in Africa. So silencing the guns by 2020, how realistic is this assertion to you, Daniel?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. I think to build up on that, this flagship program of silencing the guns by 2020 was put forward at the 24th AU summit, and I think at that point they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the AU. That is 50 years after the AU was formed, and I would say that that target was quite ambitious because if you look at 2013 to 2020, that's 7 years, and trying to solve a problem that hasn't been solved in 50 years in 7 years, in the next 7 years, is quite ambitious. But then again, I would just like to applaud the AU because they have actually made some progress and some efforts. And I would say it is not an impractical target. It is actually a practical target because you know the AU dream of 2063, that's 100 years after the AU. And if we don't overcome this conflict and have total peace, all these goals that we've set aside for the next 50 years are going to be hindered because conflicts have a really limiting factor on development and growth. So indeed, the 7 year shot for silencing guns that's by 2020 was quite ambitious. But then I also argue for the fact that it was very practical because until we completely deal with conflicts and its related issues, we are going to have a very hard time achieving our goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your optimism. You talk of silencing the gun by 2020, given that it was just 7 years apart or so, that it was quite an ambitious, target placed then, and that if peace is not achieved, all other aspirations will not be achieved. Thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. And I take Will. Will, do you think this assertion of silencing the guns by 20, or this aspiration silencing the guns by 2020 is a realistic one? What is your take, Williams?
It could be realistic. Thank you. It could be realistic. It's not realistic yet. The African Union came together. The nations came together to put this, what do we call it? How can I put it? They wanted to silence the guns at the African Union level. But what are they doing at the country level? The leaders came together to put across this beam that let us silence the gun by 2020. But what are they doing that in their country, or they're only saying it when they meet at the African Union summits? So as much as our leaders are coming together to put this challenge to us that let us silence the guns by 2020, are they doing it in their countries? So for me, I don't think it's actually very realistic, because our leaders will go out there to say let us silence the guns by 2020, but when they come back to their own countries, they don't even talk about it. When challenges come about usage of guns by their local citizens, they don't talk about it. But when they meet during the UN summit, the African Union summits, they want to talk about it in the name of they want to bring a better Africa by 2063. It's not making sense. It's not realistic. Why are we talking about silencing the guns to please other nations? Why are we talking about silencing the guns to please some other leaders that you meet during the summits? But when you come back to your own country, you don't do anything to make sure that it's achieved. It's not about the African Union pushing it. It's a particular country, it's a particular president pushing it for their country to achieve such a theme. So as far as this silencing guns is concerned, I don't think it's very realistic, because presidents are pleasing each other, or the members of the African Union during their summit, they're pleasing each other. It's not about the welfare of their people. It's not about the welfare of achieving this. It's about, are we here to please this and this person? Are we here to please other nations? Are we here to please Western countries? So it's not really realistic, because a lot of countries in Africa are at war. Not just South Sudan, that as I mentioned, Ethiopia was not Ethiopia. So Somalia was at war. In Kenya, we are at war. Some South African countries are at war. But when they go to African Union summits, they talk, let us silence the guns. Why are you silencing the guns when you're at the summit, but when you come to your country, you don't silence the gun? So what's the point of all this? So my take is that it's not realistic. Do it in your country first. Make sure that it's achieved. then come to the summit and say, I achieved this in my country. So I propose that we also do it at African level, at at this level of the summit. Let us make sure that we achieve it as this country achieved it. As far as this is concerned, no country has achieved it at all, because big people in different countries, like the politicians, the rich people, they have their guns, and they hold their guns in the name of play with me and I'll shoot you, joke with me and I'll make that work realistic. It's not really realistic.
Okay, thank you. I remember you already said that the problem of silence the gun is a bit difficult because there is a legalization of use of arms by anybody who can afford. And now you say that not being realistic, whether the aspiration is not, or the goal of silence the gun is not being very realistic because the leaders do not promote this in their own countries. And so, do you think, I queue with you again, William? So, do you think the AU actually has the powers, or have the powers to silence the guns in all the African countries or in Africa as a continent? We'll have some technical problems. Okay, I am here with Daniel. Daniel, I was asking Williams, who asserts that it is not a realistic ambition because most African leaders only have to voice this when they are at African summit meetings. And so, if they have to apply this in their own countries, then silencing the guns will be much, much faster than we think. And we are uh, almost three quarters. We are getting to 9 months of 2020. In that 2020 is already going out, just 3 months left if I like that. You have 3 months left to go or four. And so, do you think the AU actually has the powers to be able to silence the guns within the 4 months that we have left with us to go in 2020?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. And my answer to that is yes, an absolute yes. They do have the power to silence the gun, and I'll give two main reasons for that. As we made in our earlier submission that most of the conflicts, I won't call them wars, but civil wars and conflicts that have occurred and are occurring in Africa are due to ethnicity and tribal issues and problems. And we all know that in the formation of the AU, with the leaders coming together, they didn't come together on tribal grounds. They didn't come together on ethnic grounds. So at least that is a higher ground already in dealing with this silencing the guns issue, because every president or every leader who signs up for the African Union an organization and joins him is saying that he's going to lead his country without any fear or favoritism or selecting any special ethnic group to give any special favors to. So that's the first reason, because the AU is not founded on grounds of ethnicity. They're already on a higher point to tackle this issue of guns and conflict in Africa. And then the second and last submission I'll also give is that the AU in itself already has these instruments where they are connected to civil society groups, they are connected with governments, they are connected with people in the diaspora, and they are able to pull views. I believe even with this idea or program of silencing the guns was as a result of getting feedback from all these channels that they have on ground. So I believe through those same avenues where they are able to take information from and make requests, there could be a reverse form of sending out information and 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 guidelines to enforce peace. So these same channels that are used to take information can be used to promote information and the message of peace throughout. And eventually, the benefits of silencing the gun will become a reality to us all in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that development. That if we use other means, that AU is not based or founded on ethnicity, and so it's realistic that we can or they can silence the guns, and that they have powers to be able to silence the guns. Will, before you left, I wanted to queue up with you when you said that silencing the guns is not very realistic because the African leaders only have to talk of that when they are in the AU summit, and that when they come back to their countries, they do not put all they have spoken about in the summit into practice to be able to promote peace and equally silence the guns in their countries. And I wanted to ask you whether you think or you believe that the AU actually has the powers to be able to silence the guns. AU being that body that is capable of implementing peace in Africa. Do you think they have the powers to do that?
AU, okay, thank you. AU has the powers to implement it, but they cannot implement it. I agree they have the power to implement it. It's within the laws that is written among within the member states of the African Union. They have the power to implement it. But the problem is they will not be able to implement it because the AU leaders will not work in each and every country to ensure that the guns have been silenced, to ensure that the law has been implemented. It's upon the leaders that have been selected to represent the African Union in different countries. So when an African Union leader has been sent to one of the countries in Africa, let's say Kenya, to make sure that the guns have been silenced, there are bigger factions in Kenya that is making sure that the guns have not been silenced. When an AU representative has been sent to Cameroon or any other country or Nigeria or South Africa to make sure that the guns have been silenced, there are bigger factions that are working within that country to make sure that the guns are circulating, to make sure that the guns have been sold to individuals, to make sure that the private owners of guns have been licensed. So when one particular representative has been sent to make sure that the law has been implemented, they are going to face a resistance force from that country because they will not send just any other person. They'll send someone who's from another country maybe to make sure that these laws have been followed. So when someone is sent to a different country that is not theirs to make sure that the law has been followed or the rule has been implemented, and you meet resistance or you meet rogue politicians or you meet rogue leaders who are trying to make sure that the guns have been sold because they're also benefiting from the silent from licensing of the guns. They benefit a lot. So when you send a representative of the AU to Kenya to make sure that the guns have been silenced or the or licensing of individual ownership of guns have been done away with, they will face equal or they will face much stronger resistance from the country they have been sent to. So AU has the power, yes, because the countries got into an agreement to make sure that this law has been implemented, but they will not be able to implement it. You may have the power, but not the capability to implement something. AU has the power, yes, but they don't have the capability because we all know that in every particular country, there are factions that run the country. There are leaders that benefit from every other thing that happens in that particular country. So when AU want to silence guns, let's say in Djibouti, and they send their officials to Djibouti to make sure that it happens. The leaders of Djibouti that are benefiting from licensing of individual ownership of guns will not accept it. They will also put together their teams to make sure that this licensing of guns continues. So as much as they have the power, they can't implement it. Not unless they come up with a better strategy of doing it. Not unless the
Yes,
presidents or the leadership of a particular country accepts to do it at their own level, not AU level. Thank you.
thank you. I was just about asking you what you think can be done for the countries, particular or individual countries, to be able to silence the guns, and you just went about to talk about the presidents accepting to actually silence the guns. You have given quite a number of aspects that bring about resistance, and we think that these can actually be handled if we actually want to silence the guns. Yes, Daniels, how do you
Okay.
think, or how can the African continent promote peace and security in all aspects of life? Because we are seeing how the difficulties that can be faced in order to silence the guns, that maybe most presidents are not, or heads of states or decision makers are not able to, implement what is being adopted at the AU summit, and so it's making it very difficult. And so, what do you think, or how can African continent promote peace and security in all aspects of life? What is the way forward? What are the steps to be taken? What techniques can be used to be able to achieve peace in all spheres of life in the African continent?
Okay, thank you. So I think I'd like to build on what my colleague said, that first there has to be acceptance to silence the guns. And to build up on that point, I'll say there has to be acceptance that two wrongs can never make a right. Because if one person from a family or an ethnic group offend one, there will always be descendants and remnants of that family to always pay back. So we should understand that it's a vicious cycle, and it will never stop until we accept as a people, as leaders, that two wrongs can never make a right. So that is the first step, of course, accepting that. And also, aside accepting that, going further to make sure that putting systems in place, justice systems, human rights systems, to make sure that these historical cases of inequality and injustices don't repeat themselves, because we know the effect and no one is happy at the end of the day. So the first stage is acceptance, and then also to promote organizations and the continental approach to solving issues through organizations like the African Union, of course, and then the United Nations, where when there's a problem in a country, you hear African leaders from peaceful nations are coming together to visit and go and help in talks. Sometimes you just need a third person to come and mediate between two countries. So it's we should continue with that as a whole in Africa to promote peace. And then we Africa should also accept longer term or create longer term goals and longer term vision, so that this is what we use to assess our political leaders and figures. And there you have set a very good example by creating 100 year plan, of which we have just crossed the 50-year mark. And countries should also have such long term goals, so that every leader that comes doesn't come with its own promises, but then it's assessed by the framework of the long term vision that has been put there. And of course, which is also very important, one more is also enhancing the education and skills training of people, because you realize that some of these conflicts and rebel groups, most of them don't actually have anything to do. They don't have any school to go to. They don't have any vocation to go to be trained in. So we should encourage and enhance the educational system, so that more of these Africans in war-torn areas who are recovering from the very negative past of the effects of conflict and war can learn and make use of their hands and God-given talents, so they don't end up picking up arms and going into war again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll take a 30 seconds break, then we come back. Welcome back for all those who are watching us live on Facebook and on YouTube. This is your regular Monday program, The Debate, which comes up at 7 p.m. German time, and you can trace that from the different time lines that we have all over the countries. We have youths who participate in our programs. So for those who are watching us now and you want to be a moderator, you want to partake, you want to be a panelist, go to our website and send in your intentions so that we can include you, so that in our own small way, youths already in Africa can begin to contribute their quota to see that we make Africa what we want it to be by 2063. This is Sompon Global TV, and we have other programs that come up. Racism on Thursday. On Sundays, we have the business talk and other interesting talks that we have. Even on Wednesday, we have a reading of the book. So be inspired, join us, share so that your friends can join, and we enjoy the knowledge that we are getting from these our programs. Thank you so much for watching. For those who are just joining, today we are looking at Silencing the Guns by 2020, which is a flagship program adopted by the AU Summit of the 24th AU Summit. And our question we are asking ourselves today is, can we look around and acknowledge the efforts done so far? And with me in the studio, I have Daniel Kuju and Eric Williams, who are sitting in as the panelists for today. Thank you so much for watching our programs. We are happy that you are there. This is your platform, this is your space. Join us so that together we can make Africa what we want it to be. I come back to my panelists before we went for the short jingle. I was with Daniel, who developed quite well on how Africa continent can promote peace and security in all aspects of life. I take Williams. How do you think Africa can promote peace and security in the sphere of politics, institutions, social as well as financial aspects?
Okay, thank you. Well, I think Africa can actually promote peace within itself through one of the most important ways of creating awareness or dispersing knowledge to its citizens. So, you can't promote something that people are not aware of. Like most African countries, we live in, what do we call it? We are still developing. Most African countries is countries are still developing. We are still coming up with our own ways of making sure that we are at peace with each other and we are stable in aspects of finances, education, and in any other thing. So one of the most important ways of Africa making sure that it's at peace with itself, knowledge and creating awareness. Let us educate our citizens. Let us educate our people. When our people are educated well enough, such that they know what they are taking part in, let's say politically, they know why they are voting or why they are not voting, or why they are taking part in development projects, why they're taking part in flagship programs by the African Union. Let us educate us on the importance of all these projects. Let's educate us on the importance of everything that we do to achieve peace and self-sustainability within African countries. Because without education, without the knowledge, without knowing what you are doing, you won't be able to achieve anything. You can't start a project when you don't know where you are going to. You may start it, but you will get lost in the middle of the way, or you'll spend a lot of resources on your journey because you don't have a destination. So let us give African citizens, or let us give Africans a destination first. Let us educate us on what we want to achieve and why we want to achieve it, and in what ways are we supposed to achieve it. By doing that, will achieve this peaceful coexistence among African nations. Because without education, without knowledge, without telling us what we need to do, we can't achieve this. So my main point that I'm stressing is, let us create the awareness. Even this silencing gun flagship, let us create the awareness first. Let us make everyone know that this should be done. Let us make our leaders know that this should be done. Let us make all the upcoming generation know that this should be done. And after all this has been done, after we've told each and every person how it should be done or why it should be done, and the end result or the final goal of us making sure that we achieve peace amongst ourselves, then we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate only what you know. You don't appreciate what you are aware of. You can't appreciate what you don't know. So let us make sure that we know what we want to achieve first. Then we will appreciate it at individual level first. So when you appreciate something as a person, that's when you'll work towards making sure that it's achieved. So it's education and getting awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Will, for that development. I'm tempted to ask you what are the methods that you think that the African leaders can use to be able to resolve some of the conflicts that we have around in order for the guns to be silenced? What are some of the methods maybe that are not being applied correctly?
I think one of the ways is creating, actually it's sporting activities, or making African countries come together during co-curricular. Like recently in East Africa, there was this time when all the forces came together to take part in some conference in Rwanda, I think, Rwanda or Tanzania. They all came together as East African countries, and they trained, they learned, they played games together, and they were given a platform to share their ways of achieving security goals within their countries. So organizing events, conferences, or debates like this, this Simpson Group has organized debates like this actually will bring a lot of African youths together. And when such debates are organized, we will be able to learn from people from different countries that this should be done. This should be done. It's not about the nations, it's not about the leaders, it's about the individuals who want this to happen. Like the Sampon group wants this to happen, want African youths to know that we should silence guns. So they have organized this kind of debate so that we can know. So organizing such a debate is one of the brilliant ways of making sure that this happens. The president of the nation may not have the time, but individuals who wants to make sure this is achieved will come together and organize and put up debates, put up conferences, put up exchange programs to make sure that the youths are aware of what's going on around them, and making sure that silencing guns as one of the flagship projects has been achieved. So when the African Union leaders see this, they will chip in and say this particular group was trying to make sure that one of our flagship projects has been achieved, or creating awareness, and they will come in and support. So let individuals who want this to happen organize debates, organize exchange programs, organize conferences. And after organizing the conferences, let us market it, let us create awareness, let us make people know that this particular project is going on. Then when other people see it, they will come in and make sure that it goes on successfully. And all the flagship projects that African Union want to achieve will be achieved. It all begins with an individual. Well, it can't come from up going down, it has to come from down going up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Uh,
I just like to add a little to what William said concerning awareness. And there's this thing that we hear that people who have been through war never wish to see war again. So with the awareness aspect, the leaders can actually showcase the effects of war on people and bring people who have been through war to share what they saw and how it has affected them in the long run. So that's to do with the awareness aspect. And then also, like I'm saying, we should bring in innovative approaches in our education, where we reinforce the technical and vocational institutions empowered for nation building, so that it's not always about the theoretical aspects of life, but then there are a lot of Africans who can use their hands. So those people can be empowered to go into vocational programs and then keep busy and also grow the nation and grow the continent as a whole.
Thank you, Daniel, for adding your voice to that of Will. I was about asking a question. When you talked of it should be Will who talked about legalization of guns, and I was tempted to ask, don't you think the difficulty that is being faced by most African leaders to silence these guns is because most of the guns are not even acquired legally, and so there are guns around that cannot be accounted for in the hands of people who have taken it as a job that they can terrorize people around and make money out of that. Do you think this can be one of the contributions making it difficult for the guns to be silenced in most African countries? William?
Well, yes, it's not even one of the main contribution, because all fear owning legally. When you go through the legal processes, it may take long. The checkings or the licensing, it may take a very long process. So illegal ownership of guns is one of the main contributions. And believe me not, it's not most of the illegal guns are not vended, or they're not sold locally by locals. They're imported guns. So we really need to check this out. It's not guns from our countries. It's the cartels that import guns, arms dealers from other countries. So as much as we are blaming Africans for owning guns illegally, then let us also check out the people from other countries, the arms dealers who benefit from African wars. They bring in guns illegally through our ports because we are not aware. Maybe the leaders are not aware. They register their companies in the name of importing some other products, but they bring guns illegally to support African civil wars. Main contribution that is challenge to African nations in silencing guns. It's the importers who bring guns illegally to our countries. So this should be checked with a very keen and eagle eye. Where would Africans actually, let's put sense to this. Where would we get guns if it's not from through our state leaders or our governments, or legalized vendors of guns? It's the illegal importers. Let us check this out keenly and make sure that our nations or our leaders regulate the
Okay,
importation or regulate the licensing of illegal arms dealers in our countries. Yes.
okay. Daniel, thank you so much for that contribution. Daniel, you talked about the diaspora, and I want to get back to you to ask you. The diaspora is always very active in politics of their country. Those who are out are always very active in the politics of the country. And so I want to ask you, how can the diaspora help in curbing this cankerworm that is eating the African countries and equally giving much headache to head of state to be able to silence the guns? What can be their contributions, Daniel, to silencing guns in their own individual countries as diasporas?
Okay, thank you very much. I think what the diaspora can do is that they've mostly developed into experts who can contribute to policy making. Like we said, there's no problem with the legalization of guns, but then the problem is the policy surrounding it and then the implementation of it. So what the diaspora can do is contribute more to policy making, make more recommendations on how to improve security at the ports, and just basically recommending policies that could help us. For example, if guns are legalized, is there a certain jurisdiction that you are not allowed to possess a gun? Because you see that in the West, they legalize guns, and on a school campus, someone pulls out a gun and starts shooting people. So if we have more policies like you can only have guns when you are in the bush because we know you are going to hunt, or in a certain area where we have security, that's military or police protection, you are not allowed to have a gun. We need to have such fine-tuned policies. And I believe the diaspora is in a position to contribute to that because most have been at a place where guns have been legalized and they've seen the associated risk and associated effects related with the unregulated or poor regulation of gun ownership. So mainly contribution to policy making and enforcement and recommendations for new policies because they have seen what a lack of regulation can do to any community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are looking at silencing the gun by 2020, 4 months to go. You said that it was a practical target which was full of ambition and that it was achievable. And so we are looking forward that this be achieved. Now, we know that every cloud has a silver lining, meaning that everything that happens, no matter how bad it is, always has something good to derive from what is happening. Are you hopeful that by 2020, the guns will be silenced? So by the end of 2020, the guns will be silenced. Will?
Uh, yeah, we all need to be positive on every issue because it's hope that we have right now in Africa in this issue of silencing guns. I'm optimistic that it may be achieved by 2020. It cannot be achieved by 2020, but I'm optimistic that it may be achieved one of these years in the African Union, that maybe the guns may be silenced or may not be silenced. So, because as much as we are looking at silencing guns, there are other people who are looking at we should not silence guns. So all these factors must be put together, and those other people who don't want the guns to be silenced, they might they might overturn the debate altogether and say we all need guns, because according to how the world is moving right now, we may just need guns all of a sudden. According to how everything is turning out, we may need guns by the end of 2020. So it may not be silenced. But we are staying positive. Maybe let's hope that the African Union may be able to silence guns by the end of 2020. I'm optimistic. And I hope it will be achieved, because it will be better for Africa and better for each and every individual. Yes.
Okay, Daniel, any hope for the future?
There's hope,
As should the
like
guns
Will said,
not be
we always
silenced,
should.
are we hopeful?
Are we hopeful to see them?
To see
We,
that
we
they
are
are.
hopeful because it's always good to be on the hope side of things and believe in the impossible. Because I think just recently with the pandemic outbreak of COVID, we've seen so many amazing things, countries coming together to help each other. And I believe that same energy can be applied to silencing the guns and African countries coming together and those holding guns silencing them for the peace and prosperity of Africa.
Okay, we need to silence the gun so that our country, our continent, Africa, can be peaceful. And you said that if we do not silence the guns, other aspirations will not be able to be achieved because all of them depend on peace. We need to have a peaceful continent to be able to circulate properly, easily, with no fear, and work equally on all the aspirations that we have put down to be achieved by 2063. And now like I said, we are still on how the guns can be silenced. We are optimistic, of course, that by 2020, that's by December 31st, 2020, all the guns should be silenced. Now, Will, I come back to you. Given that we have illegal purchase of guns, young people shooting in schools, on the streets, and people doing all sorts of things with guns around, what can you say to the youth of your generation today about this issue of silencing the guns or owning guns illegally and using them equally in a way that does not, give honor to our continent, Africa? What can you say to the youth? What can you tell the youth honestly as your person to convince them, because we are
Yeah.
joining our voices to that of our leaders, so that the youth, because most of these acts are perpetuated by youth, so we want to see how together with our leaders, with the AU, we can join our voice and our efforts to theirs, so that we equally touch our own youths in a special way. You talked of awareness to make them know that it is good for the guns to be silent, so that we can actually make Africa what we want it to be. What will you tell the youth? How will you convince them to lay down their arms and embrace peace?
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, African youth should actually have nothing to do with guns. To my fellow youths all over Africa, whenever you are, whether in diaspora or in your native land, handling of illegal guns will eventually ruin your life. Because when you are caught on the wrong side of the law, owning an illegal gun, having a criminal record will ruin your reputation, career wise or opportunity wise. So look at the larger picture, the bigger picture of owning an illegal gun as a youth, and see what you want to do with your life. There are a lot of things that us as youths can do rather than going after guns and using them aimlessly or illegally. Once caught with an illegal gun as a youth, your life is ruined because once you're in the system as a lawbreaker, a lot of opportunities are taken away from you. You are literally snatched opportunities once you have a criminal record. So it's not about not having a criminal record or having a good reputation. It's about taking care of yourself as a youth, as a young person, as a young adult. Take care of yourself. Look at the bigger picture. Your siblings, your parents, people around you, your friends. Do you want them to be put at risk of losing their lives because you own an illegal gun and your friends do too? If you really love your friends and love the people around you and care about them, put away all the illegal guns that you're owning. Put away all the games and the plays that go around playing with guns. It won't bring us any good. We've lost enough lives in Africa. We've lost enough lives of people we care about. So let us just put away all the guns. Take away the right guns that can develop us as youths. Let us develop technical skills. Let us go to school. Let us get into sports. Let us get into debates like this one we've organized here. It's much better than owning a gun illegally that will eventually ruin you and ruin your life. Because you may have it for 6 years in court, but when you are caught, it's over for you. So to the youths all over the world, the youths in Africa, please, let us put our efforts and our talents and our vision in things that can develop us as individuals, not that can ruin people around us or
Thank
ruin
you
as
so
a whole.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you're calling on all the youths of Africa continent to lay down their guns and embrace peace, because illegal owning of guns when you're caught and you're on the other side of the law, it doesn't go well for you. Yes, Daniel, as a youth who is interested in settlement, like you said, settlement studies as well as development, what will you advise our youths who own guns illegally and are perpetrating acts that do not speak well for the fatherland? What would be your advice to the youths?
Yeah, I would like to tell the youth that first of all, I agree 100% with everything William has said. It is real and it is true. And I want to put in a statistic that about 500,000 people in Africa die each year, and the millions more are displaced as a result of these armed conflicts and violence. Can we begin to imagine the tremendous amount of talent and people who could have as well contributed to make Africa better, whose lives are being lost each year, and people being running from one country to another, and you see them in different countries as refugees? It's not a nice sight to behold. It's not a nice sight to behold at all. So, in whatever little way you can, like William said, if you have a friend with an illegal gun, seek help, silence your gun, put down your gun, and together we can build a sustainable and a successful Africa. And to the leaders, to the nation builders, and to the youth, I would say seek peace, because peace indeed is the real freedom.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Remember, we are looking at how we can, the guns will be silenced by 2020. And this is one of the key points of the 24th AU Summit. And today, our main question was, can we look around and acknowledge the efforts done so far? And I had with me Williams Eric and Kuju Daniel, who were developing the different aspects that have been seen so far for the guns to be silenced. Now, we are going to the end of our program, and we would like to hear from you what recommendations you can make for the AU and equally for our leaders and decision makers, so that these guns must be silenced at the end of this year. Will?
One of my recommendation to to the AU is, let us tighten the law if we want to achieve this. Let us make the law a little tighter. Just like The Hague makes the laws tight, let African Union makes the laws tight, so that each country can make sure that each and every law that is put on the table is followed up to the latter. Because tightening the laws will just be ignoring them. So let's make the laws tight and make sure that each and every state follows the law up to the latter. Yes. And
Thank
another
you
one
so
is,
much.
let us sensitize our youth, because this begins at the youth level, not the old people, or the adults or the leaders that are leading us. It begins from the idle youth, the rowdy youth. Let us make them aware the dangers and the importance of silencing guns. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel, what recommendation can you send forward to the AU and to our leaders about silencing the guns by the end of this year?
Okay, I would like to tell the AU that they are the leaders of Africa, and indeed any problem that comes up in Africa should be explained by the leader, and the leaders should be held accountable. So whenever they meet as AU, they should actually bring up these matters. If you hear of gun violence in another person's country, bring it up and point it out that it is not the right thing, and because of that, Africa is not moving forward as a whole. I believe all the leaders and presidents who form part of the AU should hold each other accountable and not just go there and try to beat about the bush.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
are coming to the end of our program, and today we're looking at how the guns could be silenced by the end of 2020. With me, I had Daniel and Eric, who were with me in studio. And this is your platform, like I said already. This is the Some Point Global TV, and we are happy to have you on the program. And we are happy equally to know that if the guns are silenced, other ambitions or other aspirations of the AU can be achieved easily. And we saw Eric, who said that we need to create awareness amongst youth so that they can be able to know that owning of guns illegally and using them illegally equally will not be good for our continent. We saw equally that the laws for acquisition of guns should be tightened and that the government should equally play a vital role to see that the guns are silenced by 2020. We are optimistic and we are hoping that the AU, as the arbitration committee, those that equally mediate to see that peace is, brought to many African countries, if not all African countries, do their work correctly, so that negotiations on those who are equally supposed to negotiate should be brought to the table of peace, so that at the end of the day, all of us will enjoy peace, and we should have achieved the aspiration of the fourth aspiration, of course, of the Agenda 2063, which is making Africa a secured continent as well as a peaceful continent. Thank you so much for being with us. Keep watching our programs and keep sending your contributions. Those who are watching us equally live on YouTube, you're all welcome. Share our link so that all other youths can join us, so that together we can put our hands on deck to build Africa and make it what we want it to be. We will be continuing with other programs within the week. On Thursday, we'll have the racism talk. Wednesday, of course, we have the book reading. And on Sunday, we'll be coming again with our business talk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll leave you with this jingle. Bye bye.